Hello and welcome everyone to the next Foreman community demo. It's your host Gilvin here as always, and we've got another packed demo for you today. Despite the fact that it is Thanksgiving and therefore like most of the Catella people are busy eating large quantities of turkey, we do actually still have a pretty busy demo for you because we have lots of people in other parts of the world. As always, the ways to get in touch, if you want to take part in the show live, you can talk to us on IRC, #theforeman on Freenode. You can tweet me, although I will probably not see that till afterwards because that's just how it goes. Or you can look at the YouTube live chat and I will try and keep an eye on that as well. And if you want to ask questions of any of the presenters as we go, please feel free to do so. So let's get started. As always, a quick agenda for you. It's mostly plugins this time. We've got some core updates in there, but we've got updates on Foreman Azure, on a couple of Catella things, on Foreman templates, finally getting some love, some Dimeflow and Foreman tasks things as well. So there's lots to like here. Before we get to that, let me, as usual, cover the upcoming events. So I think I've said this in the past few demos now, but we do have quite a few upcoming events. It's the big conference season in February. CFPs, I think, have been extended. So DevConf is closed, but FOSDEM and CfgMgmt Ghent, I think, are closing tomorrow. So you still have, I think they got pushed out by a few days. So go and do it if you haven't already. Submit a talk. We want to hear from you. I want to see lots of interesting talks to choose from. Make my life hard. I don't want to have too many talks to choose from. Actually, we already do. And as with last year, the Foreman Hackday is pretty much confirmed. So if you're interested in actually sitting down with some laptops and doing some hacking on Foreman, then book yourself an extra night in your hotel and come along for the Foreman Hackday on the day after Config Management Camp. That's going to be Wednesday the 8th. I'm pretty much confident that that's going to be going ahead now. Events also, my thanks to the people who went to Config Management Camp Berlin last week as well. So that was on the 15th of November. We had some Foreman talks. I believe there was some good chat as well. If you were there, come and tell me how it was because I couldn't go, sadly. I want to hear about it. If you tell me right now, I'll mention it at the end. If you tell me later, I'll put it in the newsletter next week. So information on that would be great. So I'm going to go over the metrics as usual. It's pretty dull, to be honest, this demo. Things are pretty static because we're in the middle of a release cycle, right? So things just kind of tick over. So we've got pretty much the same number of downloads as last time. Nothing really changed there. We've got similar plugin stats. There's been a slight swap in order in a couple of places. The only really notable one, I think, is that Foreman Ansible has finally pushed Foreman Cockpit off the bottom of the table. But since they're both written by Daniel, I mean, he wins either way. In Redmine, it's not too bad. Less bugs open, more bugs closed. Maybe things are getting more stable. I don't know. Slight increase in the community percentage. Happy to see that. But it's only a really minor increase, so I wouldn't read too much into it. But I'm very glad to still see that running at about 1/3 of our open bugs coming from the community. So that's really nice. GitHub is basically the similar story. I'm just going to focus straight down there on the totals. It's a little bit more busy. We've got a few more PRs open and closed, but overall, I think the big story here is the plugins one, which has had a 50% increase in PRs opened in the last few weeks. So that's huge. And that date is wrong as well. That should be November to October. Sorry about that. So yes, I think it's interesting that plugins are getting such a lot of activity right now. I can't tell you why, but I think it's quite interesting. However, I'm sure you're all bored of these really static tables, and I've been talking a lot about a dashboard for metrics in the last few demos, and I'm happy to say that the first sort of very early iterations of that are taking shape. So I'll just switch over to that. So this is the dashboard. The link was on the slide. I'll put it in the posts afterwards so that you can go find it and click on it. This is the front page of the Foreman metrics page. We are using a project called Redash. At the moment, there's really not much here to look at. We have two static graphs, which are the bugs opened in the last month or in the last 6 months. So this one's a bit smoother than that one, as you would expect. So what we basically mean here is that for a given date, from that date to 6 months back, how many bugs were opened. So it's a moving time series. And it just smooths out all the bumps, all the spikes. Obviously, for 1 month data, you expect it to be more spiky, but it's also got some more interesting dips in it as well. That's an interesting one. You can these graphs are interactive as well, by the way. So like if you're only interested in the bugs in the core project rather than the bugs in every single plugin, you can zoom right in on this graph here and get a slightly different picture. And then we've got this graph over here, which has this drop down, so you can choose a selection of interesting things, such as Google Analytics for our website, or our Google Plus community, or Twitter, or how many people are logged in, have accounts on Redmine, and so on and so forth. So that's all from me. I'm going to move straight on to Daniel now, and he will give you an update on Foreman Azure. Daniel.
Hey there, I'm trying to share my screen. Hope you can see it. Do you see that thing? Yes, okay, well, I'll continue. All right, so Azure didn't really work in some scenarios on the previous version, which is 1.0. So we've released 1.1.1, and I think the latest version is 1.2 in the past 2 weeks. And I'll increase the font because I guess you guys can't read anything. In case you're not used to Microsoft Azure, what it is, it's simply it's very similar to Amazon EC2, so to speak. So it provides you compute resource in Foreman, and it allows you to provision hosts in the Azure networks. It allows you to basically choose the size of the hosts that you're going to provision and so forth. And I'm going to explain you how to do so in a minute. You can go to theforeman.org/plugins, and then you'll find the Azure plugin in there, and here's some configuration. You will need to create a certificate that associates your login with your Azure account, and then you can use it. You have some instructions under certificate creation on the manual. All right, so this certificate has to be available to Foreman. And when you come to compute resources, you click on new compute resource. You have to give it the path to the Azure certificate and your subscription ID, and then you're all set. All right, so let's click in here just to see what we have. Things on compute resources, so virtual machines, images, and compute profiles. In images, you'll have to link local operating system that you have in Foreman under hosts operating systems. You will link it with an actual image in Azure. So in this case, I've linked CentOS with this image. To do so, I just clicked on New Image. And let's see here how it is. All right, so I just choose here the operating system, and here I have a long list of images that I can associate it with. And this field, username, is quite important. It cannot be root, actually. It's the user that Foreman will use to SSH into the instance to provision the host. It doesn't matter which user you use, because all of the images in here will accept any user. So you can put here, in my case, I just use Daniel, and then Foreman will be smart enough to send this username field and tell Azure, hey, you have to provision using this username. Okay. All right, so we have a CentOS image with that username, Daniel, that is associated with this UUID. All of the images have user data enabled in Azure. And okay, and here you can see the virtual machines. All right, if I actually want to create a host in Azure, I just go to new host. And it very similar process to other compute resources. I just come here, choose the deploy on Azure. It will start getting the details about what it needs in Azure. This part is important. If you don't have a Foreman proxy in the Azure network, that means you're not managing DNS and DHCP in Azure. You have to choose a domain that you don't manage at all. So Azure gives you a cloudapp.net domain with every host for free. So I can just choose this domain, cloudapp.net. On the next version of the plugin, it will be added by default. Right now you have to add it, but just add a cloudapp.net domain with no proxies. Anyway, I have this domain, which is what Azure gives me. And since I'm not managing DNS and DHCP, I untick the managed button. Then I go to the operating system and I choose the CentOS image that I have associated to Azure before. Now I only have this image available here. I'll choose my password here. And I see that I have a template that can be SSH'd to this image. Now I have the location here. Let's say West Europe. If you don't see the location for some reason, you have a button here to reload it. You can choose the storage account that you want to deploy your Azure host on, if you have one. You can choose different role sizes, which, so to speak, it's really the size of the machine, like the cores, memory, and so forth that you need. The cloud service name, if you have different ones, you can do it. I'm just going to default to the VM name. And virtual network, if you have one, you can deploy it in that virtual network. In this case, I do not have other virtual networks than the default, so I just let it deploy it on the default Azure network, which will give us a public IP, by the way. All right, so I just click on submit. And this is going to create the host. It shouldn't take more than, I don't know, 30 seconds or so. In the meantime, what I can explain to you, in case you have remote execution, the host that is going to the certificate that Azure uses is also the host SSH key. So in case you want to SSH into the host, you just do SSH the name that you chose. So Daniel add that.
If you're using a terminal, we're not seeing it at the moment because you're only showing your browser.
I'm sorry. Oh yeah, I can do that. Apparently, Okay. Apparently, I have deployed too many hosts today, and I don't have more. I have reached the limit of cores that I can deploy. So let's choose this other Azure account that I have. But yeah, actually, I can SSH into another host, into another Azure host that I have here. I'll share my console. So you can see it here, lance.russell.cloudapp.net. All right. Wow, you're not going to be able to see much in there, right? Do you see anything at all?
No, that's. I mean, I can't usually see tops of screens because of my broadcasting setup, anyway. But to be honest,
yeah, it didn't show.
we are running a little light on time here.
So. I know. Okay, it's fine. Well, just that you can do SSH -I the name that you chose for the image. In that case, Daniel, at your Azure host cloudapp.net, and then you'll be able to SSH using the Azure certificate that we've created for Foreman. You might want to also, if you use the remote execution plugin, set this certificate. Put the certificate on your Smart proxies so that your Smart proxies can SSH and run jobs on your Azure hosts. And yeah, I don't really have a lot more to share. I can show you like the IPs and so forth of the CloudUp hosts, so the Azure hosts that I've created, but I don't think it's that important. So yeah, that's it.
Cool. Well, I don't see any questions just now, and I think we need to crack on because we've actually got a pretty packed schedule today. So I'm gonna move on, and if questions come up, we'll obviously come back around to you and we'll get those answered.
Okay.
So moving on then. So that was Daniel. Thank you very much, Daniel. We're going to move on to Sean, one of our. Well, you are a Red Hat, Sean, I guess, but you're technically community as far as I'm concerned, right? Because you're not part of engineering. So, so another contributor here who's going to show us something new. Sean, you good to go?
Yeah. Hi guys. Hopefully you can see my screen.
Yes, I can.
Cool. So,
probably want to make it a bit bigger though. It's a low quality stream. So. Yeah, you'll probably get away with that. That's cool.
So anyone who uses Catello will know that you know about this content host page, and you've got the errata and the packages tab along the hosts here. So I've just had a new tab here called traces. So every time you run an update, if you install a package, we've got a new Yum plugin that will upload these traces, and it just tells you what application you need to restart afterwards. So you go to list of applications, and then also if you've got remote execution installed, you can tick the ones you want to restart. So I want to restart these two. Restart selected, and it will run a remote execution job to do it. And hopefully we get success. And all that there is done is just restart the services, and then run the tracer upload again, just so Catello now has the latest data. So if I go back in, hopefully we've got some less now. SSH is still there. I think that it's actually my SSH session that's running, so it could be a little bug there. But yeah, just to show it from the client side as well. So if I do a downgrade tune, for example, so you've always had this one before, uploading package profile, but we've now got the tracer profile. Just similar sort of thing. So upload it. One thing to note is that if you go on here and you decide, oh, I need to restart something, so we need to restart tune, and then you restart tune, it won't notify Catello about then. So the data that we've got here still thinks it needs restarting. You just need to run Catello tracer upload. That was it, really. I think.
Superb. That's really nice. I'd love to see that for other OSs, but that's my general statement about Catello. But yeah, that is fantastic. I really like that. I'm just
actually
quick look. Sorry, go on. Yeah. No, go on. We don't have any questions anyway, so carry on.
You can use the tracer command line directly if you want.
Just before you carry on, just a quick warning: watch out for typing and talking at the same time. Hangouts will mute you while you're typing.
Yes. Okay. So you can use tracer minus E, and we just get the data from tracer. So if you kind of get a problem with it, I guess, you can use the command line directly, tracer, and they've got other options, I guess. But yeah, that was it.
Cool. Yeah, you've got to watch out for that Hangouts thing. You got away with it, I think. You were pretty okay. Just once or twice it clipped your audio while you were trying to say something, but I think we got most of it.
Cool.
So that's great. Thank you very much for that. Daniel's asking, or he can ask it himself actually, because he's still on the call. Go on, Daniel.
Yeah, I was wondering, where is the tracer, the helper field coming from on the traces page?
Yeah, so that's tracer gives you it. So it will tell you what needs restarting. It will tell you how to restart it. We just get that from tracer.
Okay, so if it's a service, it tells you that. Does it know about other types of programs, how to restart them, or?
So the way tracer works, it will work out to you if it's got a service file.
Mm-hmm.
You can also, if you've got other applications, so in here, for example, this application is restarted using that command, so you can kind of specify ones, but that's part of tracer, really.
Oh, awesome. Okay.
There's a few options like Dropbox, start like that, stop, that's how you restart it.
Mm-hmm. So if I have my own application, I can just overwrite this XML file and it will show up in Gittel.
Yeah,
Okay. That's great.
One also thing I didn't know, it's only on Fedora and EL7. Tracer doesn't work on EL5 or EL6, so hopefully you'll have a reason to migrate.
Do we need more? That's good. Okay, cool. Oh, hang on, we got another question. Klaus wants to know if the tracer plugin is production ready, because he's been waiting for it apparently.
I mean, like for example, this line here isn't true. That's my SSH session, so it hasn't quite realized that's the session. So you might get a few issues with the data, but we're hoping to get them ironed out pretty quickly.
Does it note kernel reboots as well?
It doesn't. That's also another thing to mention. Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. Thank you very much. So moving along, next up, we're going to have Andre, and I'm very happy to see more people working on my old templates plugin. So much potential that I never got around to writing. So I'm very glad to see several features in this demo, actually, of which Andre has the first couple. So if you're ready to go.
Hi. You should be able to see my screen now.
Yes, we can.
And today I'll be showing settings for Foreman templates, which you can access under Administer and Settings, and then under Template Things tab, which you get these settings. These are basically the same values that you supply to your rake task when running template sync. They are described in the README as well. And the settings basically provide you with same default values, but you can still override them if you want to. You can do that by supplying the options to the rake task, and I'll show you how to do that together with another feature, which is syncing templates from your local file system, which wasn't available earlier. So if I run this command, template sync, and with some options, these options will be used and will override the default values from your settings. So if I do that, it seems to be done. Now, if I go to my templates and do a refresh, which should take about just a second, you can see that these are the templates I've just imported with the prefix that I supplied on my command line. And yeah, that's basically it.
Superb. Thank you very much. I don't. I see one question from Ohad, but I've already answered it. He wanted to know why the never instead of false. But as people who've used that feature know, it's for OS association and it's documented. It's not a false value. It's a specific meaning to do with how to associate metadata. I wanted to just point out, you went really fast over that, but the file system import is really useful. It's a really nice feature because, as you say, you had to have a Git repo before, and not everybody does. And even if you do, or you use some other form of VCS like Subversion or Mercurial or whatever, you can now actually import your templates because it'll just read them straight from the file system if that's what you want to do. Cool. Shall we? I'll just check for more questions. Yeah. Let's. Ohad's just trolling me now, so I'm going to ignore him, and we're gonna move on to your second feature, I think, Andre. So I'll just switch back to my slides so we get the title. So the next one is something to do with the host index. Tell us more.
Okay, so it's about power status of your host on host index page. This is mine and Ohad's joint effort. Ohad did quite a lot of work on the UI. A little bit behind the scenes information is that this is actually a React component that's been added to a page. And you can see that you get different colors for the power status of your host. You get green if the host is on, you get red if the host is off, and you get gray if for some reason the power status is not available. Because querying the providers for power status of your host can be a little bit costly, you can simply turn this feature off if you go to Settings, General, and here is Show Power Host Status option. You can turn this off really easily, and then no status is actually displayed. That's about it.
Cool. Lukash wants to know how that works performance-wise. Obviously, you've got the option to turn it off. Do you find it's very slow, or is it mostly okay?
It's mostly okay, but we didn't test it too thoroughly, and there is a timeout on the request. I believe 3 seconds, but still.
And is it one request per host?
It's one request per host.
Yeah. So it would obviously, I guess, an enhancement to that would be to batch it by compute resource, right?
Yeah.
But I guess that's for future bugs. So there we go. Cool. It's all done asynchronous as well, is it?
Yes,
it's trying to tell me.
Yes, it's asynchronous.
Right. So the page loads, and then these come in as time permits. Excellent. Is that done with the new React stuff?
Yes, it's the React component.
Superb. Okay, we're starting to see some nice benefits from that. Love it. Oh yeah, you can see it loading there. Oh, lovely.
Okay.
Cool. Okay. Just check for anything more. Yeah, has just told you to refresh, but he's about 30 seconds behind us, so he'll see that in a minute. Okay. Just some other. Yeah. I think that's everything. So I'm gonna move on, I think. So.
Okay.
Thank you, Andre. Moving on, a couple of updates from Shim on tasks and downflow. So, Shim, if you're there, I think we're ready
here
for you.
Yeah.
Superb.
Okay, so first is memory watcher for downflow. So I have, let me share my screen, it would be nicer. And here is an empty terminal. So what I have added to downflow is a class that enables us to watch the memory footprint of the downflow executor. So you can limit the amount of memory your downflow executor is consuming. It is in the examples, so you can actually run the I will run the example, and you will see the effects of the executor. You can see that it runs a task that reports its memory consumption. Then it allocates 10 cells. It's a small array, so the memory limit is not exceeded, as you can see, and then I'm executing another task that will consume a lot of memory. So indeed, the memory allocation did grow, so the last task will not be executed at all because the world is terminated as a part of the watcher process. That was it about Dimeflow. This feature will get into Foreman tasks too. It will be later. I have to admit this feature is not in the main release, so watch for it in the next releases. Okay, that was it for Memory Watcher and Dimeflow.
Cool, fantastic. So quickly back to the slide so I can put your second thing up. So that's Dimeflow. What about multiple executors then?
Okay, multiple executors. You can now execute. Sorry, yes. In a Foreman task, you can create multiple. You can create a Dimeflow executor that will. Okay. You have a Dimeflow executor that will create a process that will be responsible for running your Dimeflow tasks, basically. So till now, you had to run your. If you wanted multiple executors, you had to actually run multiple tasks. Since we have some infrastructure that will monitor the tasks and all stuff behind it, we can right now use a flag that will actually start multiple executors in one command. Right now, I'm trying to start 5 executors, so my sound can be played. And we can see that I have a battle processor right now and waiting for tasks.
Shem, your audio broke up completely while that was running because you maxed out your CPU, so you might want to start that sentence again.
Yeah. So I was saying that right now I have started the executor that has 5 processes, 5 executors running and waiting for tasks. So that should be it.
Cool. One question for you from Lukash on the previous section. Can you define a cell for him? What was a cell in the previous example?
Yeah, the cell, for example, I will show the example. It will be much easier. It's actually an array that I allocate. So cells are actually cells in an array. One second.
Okay, so yeah, just a small array. Right, got you. Okay, cool. I'll just check for anything else.
Here is the example, and here is the cells.
Right. Okay. So it's literally just an array being allocated. Cool. Okay. I don't see any other questions for you. I do have one for Andre though, and I guess the guy who asked is on the call. Do you want to do it yourself, or do you want me to do it?
Beg your pardon?
Andre, I'm talking to Evgeny who has a question for you.
Oh, sorry.
I don't know if his mic's working because he's not saying anything, so I'll ask it for you. Yeah, he can't talk. He's muted. Okay, that's cool. I wasn't sure. So he just wanted to know if there's any plan or if it's even possible to click those power buttons to make that an actual control method for the power status of a host.
Well, there are no definite plans yet, but we can do something about that if there is a request to expand it. I'm not sure why we couldn't.
Cool.
If there is some
file a bug, file a patch, even. Right, thank you, Andre, and thank you for the question as well. And as I said at the beginning, if you do have your questions, keep them coming. It's a busy show today. So moving on, we're going to have my compatriot in the community area, Shlomi, is going to give us a little bit of code he's been working on.
Hey, I'd like to talk today about keepers on compute resources. So this basically applies to EC2 and the OpenStack compute resources. They both have keepers. One small thing, the pull request is still pending. I believe it's ready to merge, and I hope it will get merged in the next few days, but I wanted to demo that because I think it would be cool to show it. So we have a compute resource, an EC2 compute resource, and a keeper is created when we are creating the compute resource, but it also has other keepers.
Shlomi, I'm not seeing a lot on your screen, just a black screen and your cursor.
That's cool.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
That's all right. Just checking.
No, I'm sorry. You don't see my.
Unless it's right at the very, very top, because I get
No,
partially
I don't
hidden.
see it either.
I just see a black screen and your cursor.
That's weird.
Try to reload because that happened to me before.
Just
Oh.
unshare and reshare. It should be fine, I think.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's all right. These things happen. Technical difficulties, folks. Every broadcast has them, right? That's why we do things live. That's how you know it's live and not recorded.
True. So do you see my screen now?
No, I still see a black screen and cursor.
Oh.
What are you trying to show? Are you trying to show Foreman or a console?
I do try to show Foreman. That's
Okay.
very weird.
Something strange going on. Try sharing like the whole desktop instead of the one application.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. We got it.
Yes, success.
Yay. Okay. So on EC2 and OpenStack compute resources, once we create the compute resource, we also create a keeper. The keeper is the thing that helps us access those machines. So basically, now we have a new tab which shows us the compute resource keepers. The one which is marked as active is the active key, so that's the one that we can download to use. So I can click on download, and I can download it as a new as a file which I can access and SSH. And with the others, I can delete. Please note that you cannot delete the active keeper. You can only recreate it. So once you do that, it will get recreated, and but we have to have an active keeper. For the other ones, they could be leftovers, or they could be existing keepers from before you had Foreman installed, but those ones are ones which are safe to delete. Another extra step that we took is that in context of locations and organizations, we wanted to ensure that we are not deleting keeper from another organization. So on that scenario, you would see that the icon, that it is an active, but it's not on our scope, and we will not have the delete button. So basically, that's it. Thank you.
Superb. That is lovely. Presumably that's just coming out of the table, right? It's the keypad table, and we're saying that we've got 4 keys here. But how does it know which one is the active one?
Basically, when we create the compute resource, we create another model which is called a keeper, and it has all the right credentials. So we evaluate that.
So you're just looking for the current one in there. Yeah, cool. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Okay, I don't see any other questions just now, although Daniel seems extremely happy with it, so great. So that's that for Shlomi. Moving along, let's go back to the slides. So next up, we have Marek with a couple of things to show us. Marek, are you there?
Yes, hello. Can you see my web browser?
I can. Tell us all about this permissions thing.
Okay. So, before I start, I should probably explain what I mean by parameters here. So, because in Foreman, as you probably know, we have more parameterization types. And you might have heard about things like smart class parameters, smart variables, and parameters. So when we say parameters, we mean those that are normally visible under global parameters here, and also parameters that you can override per objects like domain, operating systems, organizations, locations, stuff like that. So here you can see the tab parameters. So to demonstrate what I was working on is, I have some domains here. This one has 3 parameters. It's basically just a combination of name and value. Another domain that has this one, and so this is admin user, and I have a different user, which is not administrator, and he has a role param test. And if we check the filters for that user, what's most important is that he doesn't have currently any permission for parameters. So what it means, if I now switch to second browser, hopefully you can see that here I'm logged as this user. And as you can see, I don't have the global parameters option here anywhere. Also, when I go to the domain, I don't see the parameters tab. And that's because the user doesn't have any filter that would allow me to do that. So before the change, you could add up 2 different parameters or 2 different filters with different parameters. One would be for parameter, so you can assign view parameters permission here. And second one would be common parameter. The common parameter would be for the objects in these global parameters, even though it's basically the same object but scoped to a domain, for example. So now we unified that from parameters and common parameters under the same set of parameters here. And by adding this permission view params, I actually give the user ability to see those parameters, both globals and those that would be visible only on the domain object. It also allowed us to actually start using granular filters on these parameters. So what I can do now is to scope the permission like this. So let's say we want the user to be able to only see the parameters that are on the domain with this name. So now when I hit submit, and I recheck that here on that user account. So first thing that you might notice is that I can see global parameters here, but if I go there, I don't see anything because the filter told me that I can see only parameters that are assigned to domain. If I would look at the same as admin user here, you can see that there are some global parameters. But I configure it so that the user only see parameters of a specific domain. So now when I go here and I see parameters tab here, I see all of the parameters. I can't edit them because I granted only the view permission. And I can see it only on that domain. The other domain does not show me any parameters there. So I can also demonstrate that other permission works, and I can grant more, something like this. So I can combine these permissions, so it can be on the same domain. And I can also specify the name of the parameter. So let's say that he will be able to see only those that starts with letter A. And well, I still have the old filter here, so I need to delete that. So now when I go here, I can also see, sorry, wrong domain. No. So I did some typo, I guess. Oh, yeah, I used equal sign, but I need to use the operator for like this. So now the user should be only able to see the parameters that starts with letter A. And actually, since I edit also the edit permission here, he can also edit the parameter. So I could combine these and let him see all parameters for the domain, but edit just some of them. So something like this. And now we can see that the user can edit the one that he's able to see and start with the letter A. Okay, so there's just one thing that you should be worried about. If you already used the old parameters for the resource common parameter, there's a migration that merges all of these filters into one. There's just one change that will be covered in the release notes in our manual, and that is if user had some permissions like this, it means on this resource parameter, he will be, after the migration, automatically able to see all the global parameters. We decided to go this way, even though it would be technically relatively easily possible to migrate the existing filters. But from our experience, it seemed like users that granted view params also thought that users will be able to see global parameters, and they consider it as a bug that it doesn't really work. Okay, I guess that's it. One more thing, actually, is that if you go to the filter, now you might wonder, how would you let the user just allow to see global parameters and not, for example, any others? Because if you leave the view parameters like this, it means user can see all parameters, both globals, both or domain parameters and subnet parameters and everything. So if you need to scope user only to global parameters, you can just use type and see and set common parameter. This means that this will apply only on the global parameters. So now the user should be able to see everything here. Yeah. Okay, so any questions?
I'm not seeing any questions just now. That is a really, really nice feature, though. It's a much more intuitive way of handling this. So very happy to see that come. I'll just double check. Nope, nobody got any questions for you just now. So let's move on to your other thing, and then I can double check when the YouTube stream catches up. So quickly back to the slides. We have now got another feature to Foreman templates. This one technically hasn't been merged yet, but as the main maintainer of the plugin, I can tell you that it's definitely going to be merged. So so we might as well demo it. Marek.
Okay, so before I move on, sorry, Greg, this demo won't cover the Foreman templates, but I'll mention it at the end. So
okay. I thought, you're just demoing the API.
Well, let me demo that.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, so a new feature in the Foreman, and it's already merged, so it will be part of 1.14, is actually a way to export the templates. So we already had a way to import the template. So if you go to the new template here and you select a file here, then it allows you to choose some text file and import it easily. With the Foreman templates plugin that Ondrej demoed a few minutes or some time ago, it's possible to actually do the bulk import of the whole directory or the Git repo. And what is currently missing is actually the feature to export that from the Foreman database. So I added a feature to Foreman core that opens the door for the further improvements in Foreman templates. But so far, this is just a simple thing in the Foreman. And what it is actually a new action for each template you can call is export. So if you click export here, it allows you to download the template. Let me just switch to a different browser under the user. So you can do the same under the user, and the only permission that he has to have is to view the template. So we can export this, and now we can see that we received a file. I'll just enlarge it a bit so you can see. this is basically the content of the template. So for example, imagine that you update some kickstart here, you add, let's say, some new comment, and you want to share it through our community repo. So you can now, when you save it, you can now easily export it. And you see there's the new comment. Right? One more thing to notice here is that usually the template also has some metadata here. Normally, they are included from the community repo we have. But when we export this, we actually generate a fresh metadata here. So, for example, these operating systems here are based on what I have set here. So, for example, if I assign a couple of Debians here, save the template, and do the export again, the metadata should be refreshed. And you can see I have also Debian operating system here. Well, even though it doesn't make really sense for Kickstart template, but it uses the associations to generate this metadata. Well, it wouldn't be that useful if you would have to click on export for each of the template. So we also have API for that. So if we go to terminal, we can demonstrate it easily just by going to Foreman. Now you need to know the ID of the template. So let's say 2, and then the action is export. And you can see that you get the same export. You can just pipe it to some file like this. And well, you could easily script this with listing of the templates so you can export all of them. It's still not as perfect as it could be. So that's why I also started to work on the patch to the Foreman templates. So you could do it similar way as you import all the templates. It's currently in progress. There are small things to address, and it should be ready in a couple of days, I guess. Okay, so that's it from my side.
Cool. Thank you, and sorry for getting your line item wrong. I thought we were talking about templates, and I obviously misread it. And same apology to Sean as well, because I got the line on his slide wrong as well. So we do have one question for you on the previous segment on permissions. Klaus was just wondering what happens if in your last example where you had a combined view all the parameters but only edit one of the parameters, what then happens when the user changes the name of the parameter? Will that save and then be unable to change it thereafter?
Okay, so yes, if the name is changed, then after the save, the parameter won't be editable anymore, because the filter condition is applied immediately when you try to edit the parameter, and it's not cached anywhere. So when you try to edit,
will work. But the save will work. So really, it's working as you would expect it to. Yeah. So be careful with your filters, people. Write them in a sensible way. Don't use A*. Cool. Okay, and then finally, a last-minute entry. We are. What time are we on here? We are very close to running out of time, but we've just got time for one more update from Dominic, who's going to talk to us. Oh, I'll switch back to my slides first. He's going to talk to us about some roles inheritance.
Hello. Today
We can hear you. Go ahead.
It's better.
We can. Yeah, we can hear you fine. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
Okay. Hello. Today I will show you the feature what allows user to show inherited roles or roles inherited from the user groups.
If you're trying to show something in the UI,
yeah.
Oh, there we go. I was just going to say it's not showing, but it's just turned up. Perfect.
Yeah. Okay. It's ready. At first, we choose some user groups. For example, user group with no roles, and assign some user.
and some user group with a lot of roles, for example, all roles, and submit it. Then when we look at users tab and choose some user, for example, user with no roles, and show the roles, there is a new tab with roles from user groups, and you can choose from drop down the user group. If there is no roles, it's display text. This group has no roles, and in other way, for example, John have the user groups test2 and test4, and test4 has no roles too. Sorry. Yes, the Bible. The Bible has roles with user groups. The user group is no roles, test2 and test4. Sorry, I didn't reload it. Something goes wrong, I think. Yes. Yes. The test for these roles, and at first you can see the first role from the list, and if a user have no user groups, for example, well, roundup have no user groups, that looks like that. That's off from one side.
Cool. That's awesome. I'm hearing lots of love for that on the channel. It seems like it's going to be a popular feature. It's always good to know up front what you're going to be given, right, before you start adding more roles to it on top. So that's a very useful feature. Okay, so I think I'm just going to do a last check for questions before we wrap up. I think there's one more for you, Marek. I know we've already just been discussing it a little bit in IRC, but just for the benefit of people watching the video, if to follow up on the point about parameters and changing the name of the parameter, does it make it possible to save to a parameter you shouldn't be able to write to? So if you have edit parameters on A star and you change the parameter name to B something, does that mean you can overwrite a parameter you shouldn't be able to write?
So I would say that's the common problem with the current permissions, that we can't have the same filters or search conditions for the creation or updating objects. And that's because the implementation that relies on SQL layer, and until the object is actually safe, we can't do verification. I recently started to experiment with the solution for this issue. I opened the pull request a few days ago, and it seems to work surprisingly well. It just needs to adjust a lot of tests in Foreman, and obviously heavily being tested. But yes, for now you can also, for example, create a host with a name if you have a create hosts permission, and even if that create host permission is filtered with a condition like name starts with A, you can create host start with name starting with B. So that's nothing new in terms of these parameters.
Okay, good to know. It's a good caveat for people to be aware of, and hopefully we'll get that fixed soon. Sounds like you're on the case. Okay, well, I don't see any further questions, so let's wrap it up, shall we? This has been the Foreman Community Demo for the 24th of November. It's been a pleasure to have everyone on today. If you've enjoyed it, you know the drill. You know where we are. Come see us on IRC. Follow us on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter. You guys must be bored of me saying this by now. In the meantime, thank you very much for watching, and do take care.